Hello, guten Tag und grüß Gott. Today is Sunday, June the 29th, 2025, and this will be my last video in this month. And the previous video was I think in the first week of June, so lots and lots of stuff has happened. And of course, it's in the news, so what am I going to contribute to the news? Well, my perspective, you know, and so whatever that's worth. So I'm not trying to give you news or anything like that. I want to make sure that you understand that. But I just want to comment on the news because, I'm just one of the folks here that sits around and in wonder of what in the hell is happening here. And of course, the news is all about President Trump, really. Let's face it, because he's in the news every day. And of course, he must be loving it because this is what he does best, So Trump is working with these tariffs, is trying to make a deal for America, which is really wonderful, that he's actually doing something because the last president didn't do crap. And what he did do, turned to crap. So maybe that's a little harsh, but, it's my perspective nevertheless. And this guy, is actually trying to help America. So they had a G7 conference in Canada. Well, things kind of went to crap in the world again, between Gaza and Iran, because the Israelis went and started attacking Iran, and Iran retaliated with missiles to Israel. And so there was all this stuff going on, And so, so he left the G7 early, and of course the G7 people really, the representatives really wanted to have a really good talk with him about tariffs and NATO and all the things that are concerns in the world right now because America is the big influencer basically. America has become since World War II or maybe a little bit earlier, maybe since World War One, the most powerful nation in the world. And that's really kind of strange in that here we have the most powerful nation, and it's the most heterogeneous nation in the world. I mean, there are immigrants from all over the world here. I mean, name a country and you've got somebody here. I'm sure there's somebody here from Iceland. Probably lots of Swedes. From Africa. From everywhere, and they're here and contributing or taking to some extent. If they're here illegal, then the taking is something, that I'm totally against. Well, anyway, so Trump in the news. So he leaves G7 early because, the conflicts between Iran and Israel, and they're training missiles, and Israel is really devastating the air defenses of Iran right now, or at that moment. And so he did have a conversation with the head of NATO, and it was just really kind of interesting, and he just said something like, these two nations, Israel and Iran, and the Muslims, in the area, the Palestinians, they've been at each other for so fucking long, that they don't even know what the hell they're even fighting about. Okay, so that's what he said. And I'm paraphrasing it, but the fucking long time, was actually in there. So, so what happened is, the NATO chief, talked about this on the news, and, his response was interesting. He says, sometimes Daddy has to use strong words. So now, at the White House, President Trump is, in the quiet, known as Big Daddy. Well, let's talk about this a little bit because, you know, Donald Trump, or President Trump, I'm going to call him President Trump because, for 4 years he's president here for sure. And who knows how much longer afterwards, depends on how good he does, and whether the people want him back or whatnot. I don't know how that's going to work, when we have a constitutional limit on the president's serving only 2 terms. But, so, what did he do? Well, he mobilized our Air Force and sent bunker buster Trump bombs to Iran. And so he, these places are known where they're doing the enrichment and so forth, so, and evidently these bunker busters are really something. So 30,000 pounds of munitions, go down there. And, from 40,000 feet, they can hit like the size of a dinner plate. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. And talk about, a beautiful orchestrated job, it definitely is pretty much, like the Osama bin Laden takedown. It was orchestrated, it was done well, there was a fake liftoff of bombers in Louisiana, but that's not what actually was happening. And they went into Iran airspace without Iran being able to do anything. It's very likely that Israel, kind of disabled, a lot of their eyes in the sky, But nevertheless, these stealth bombers, do from what I understand, even some of the fighters, have the signature of a bumblebee, and so, they're really kind of hard to find, and so, the radar experts, are looking for bumblebees, that go at 2,000 miles an hour or something like that, so it's kind of crazy, But in any case, so what's happening right now is Israel and Iran are actually at a ceasefire. So Big Daddy actually did something good, Yeah, and did it take bunker buster bombs? Well, we don't know. And it's the weirdest thing, what nations are doing nowadays. For instance, Iran decided, they told their people that they're going to retaliate. And they did. So they attacked a base in Qatar, evidently, with missiles. But the thing is, they're telling the people, at the base, or they're telling the country, hey, we're going to attack you at Qatar, at that base. So this was well known, and it gave them some chance to evacuate it. And evidently, the same thing happened when they unleashed the bunker busters. Iran was notified that within the next couple of weeks, we're going to bomb your facilities. And then 2 days later, they did, so they didn't have much time to move equipment and stuff like this, And we don't really know, the extent of the damage and what it did, but it really shook up Iran pretty heartily because they cracked down on suspected spies internally, and they're executing people, and they're accusing people, and they're asking the neighbors to spy on the neighbors, and so it's really, it's really tragic because, also the Israelis, killed some top leaders, that top professionals in the nuclear business, top professionals in the army and the service. Their service abilities, and so their service. I don't know whether it was the Air Force or whatever, Anyway, their armed forces, top generals, were also killed. And I have a little reservations about targeting specific people. I mean, holy crap, I'm sure that the Iranians are targeting our president now. And so, I am not so sure that that's a really a civilized way to go about waging war. But, we're in a different world. So, we can escalate these attacks, because, and maybe that's just to avoid nuclear attacks, so that they're attacking, the people that are responsible for, the war machine, so to speak. Anyway, so Big Daddy actually was able to get, a ceasefire, and so far it's holding. So we don't know what's going to happen, whether the next thing will flare up. But so the internet, is joking about some of these things, is the Ayatollah of Iran came out and said that, we have destroyed 14 or 17 bunker buster bombs, using our nuclear facilities. So, I think we're still having a lot of fun, but, bunker buster bombs are not falling on America yet, okay? We don't know, what's going to happen throughout the world, so, let's not be too smug about it. Anyway, so, well, of course, the situation between Elon Musk and our President Trump, has taken some really bizarre turns. Elon Musk, has apologized, and Trump says, well, he actually likes me. So when I kind of predicted, and I don't want to be a procrastinator because I don't know the future, but when I kind of predicted, that these two big guys, are having a slugfest, and then they're gonna, shake hands, this is probably what's happening because they need each other, Let's face it. Elon Musk is, just the greatest innovator that we have, for that we had actually around, for some time. Maybe the innovator of AI, will kind of overtake him, whoever that was. But I understand he was even involved in that, with ChatGPT. So, and he's getting lambasted now, the Cybertruck is still under attack and so forth, because, it's Elon Musk. And, but Tesla still makes the best damn electric cars, around. And if you're thinking about buying an electric car, and I'm not a salesman for Tesla, but there's only Tesla there because everything else is, is still in its infancy, in baby steps. The autonomous driving is coming on like gangbuster, and it's really doing well. Those of you who signed up for autonomous driving, especially in a Cybertruck, it's really, really good. And we have two cars with autonomous driving right now. One of them is my wife's Plaid, and she uses it all the time, and she likes it. It's a little different, than in the Cybertruck. In that, well, maybe I'm just more comfortable in a Cybertruck because when I drive her car, I minimally use the autonomous version of driving. Anyway, yeah. So let me switch gears a little bit. Here the world is still at war. Ukraine is still going, hot. As a matter of fact, what's happening in the Ukraine? They're worried about running out of young people, to make babies. They're killing off their youth, basically, because they're sending them out to war. So what's happening is more and more older guys, grandparents, are going out there as fighters. Of course, they're maybe more experienced and all that kind of stuff, but they're trying to pick up the slack because this slugfest over there is really a terrible thing for both countries, for Russia as well as the Ukraine. And I'm hoping that Big Daddy, will figure out a way to negotiate some sort of a ceasefire and maybe eventual peace, But, Zelensky is really, really strident about, we want the Crimean back. And, of course, the Donbass is also Ukraine. And in the meantime, Russia has already claimed them as part of their country. So it's really, really a tough way to go. But so what else is going on? Well, Kanye West. Kanye West is, a singer. So he came out with a song. and the song uses the N-word, and Heil Hitler and all that kind of stuff. And so it's banned, from basic radio usage. But, it became a huge hit, on the internet. So the internet actually, the streaming services, made it into a huge hit. So if you really want to listen to something controversial, then look for Kanye West's song, on some sort of a streaming service. And I didn't really look into it real hard, but there's freedom of speech in the United States, and the song is being banned all over the country, but all over the world actually. But nevertheless, it's #1 song in Austria, and #1 song here and there. So that's kind of an interesting event, for entertainment, taking over, the people's minds, so to speak, Also, oh, by the way, I do have my dog right here. My dog Ghost is right here. So there's another thing happening, in New York. New York population is about 12% or 13% Jewish, something like that. And, it's a highly ethnic, diverse place. And you know what? The Democrats, who are normally winning the mayoralty, the mayorship in New York lately, since Giuliani, who actually fixed things in New York, they're trying to screw it back up again if they can, because Democrats seem to be this way, give the criminals a break, that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but what I mean is, we've had protests here in LA against ICE, because people are unhappy here in California about ICE raids, picking out the people that are the bad guys and the illegal aliens, that just walked across the border at the invitation of the Democratic government, okay? At the invitation of the Democratic government that we had over the years. They wanted to open the borders totally. The borders are, our vice president didn't even go to the border to do anything. So all they had was lip service because, I suspect that the Democrats' voter base, includes a lot of illegal aliens coming in to vote for them because they understand that, they need to keep the liberal government in place. And, while it's illegal to vote in a federal election or state election, and not being a citizen, in fact, but they're making it so easy for somebody to just lie, when they go to the driver's, to get a driver's license here in California, for instance. In California, anybody can get a driver's license. All they have to do is have proof of residence somewhere, And there's a statement in there, hey, would you like to register for voting? Okay. And when you register you can register for voting, provided you're an American citizen. It says that right in there. There goes the dog. And and it's and then it also states in there that if you lie about being a citizen, then that's a felony. So all of the warnings are being given, but all you have to do is say, yes, I'm a citizen. Because nobody goes and checks and whether you're a citizen or not. And you know what? There are actually federal agency that's supposed to verify these things, and check on people whether they really are citizens. But first of all, they're not really funded all that well, so they can't really do their job. Okay. So again, these are the people that are voting Democrat. Okay. Anyway. So what's happening is in New York, a Democrat, it's kind of surprised people, because they call him the improbable candidate. His name is Zoran Mamdani. Anyway, he's a Muslim, and definitely anti-Jewish, pro-Palestine. And here he is, good-looking dude, and he rose to the top of the Democratic nominations, and so as a matter of fact, Como, who was also a candidate running for the nomination for mayor, just abdicated, so this guy is then the Democratic candidate. So that's what that means potentially, is that we're going to have in, the largest city in America, a Muslim mayor. Now, the Brits are, familiar with that because there are a bunch of cities, that already have Muslim mayors. But here's what's happening in the United States now. So, the Muslim immigrants here, they told us, they said, we're going to outbreed you and we're going to take over your country, because it's a democracy. And what does a democracy do? The majority rules. And once we're the majority, we're going to make the laws. We're going to interpret the laws. We're going to do everything, that is in accordance with, our Sharia laws. So, I probably won't see this in my lifetime, but look out for that in the future, Anyway. So that's the improbable rise of Zoran. Zoran. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Anyway, this guy, his father was a Columbia professor, so he's definitely, a guy born here and everything like this, but he's always had these leftist leanings. As a matter of fact, he campaigned to defund the police, okay? Now, this is the kind of a guy, that... AOC and the extreme liberal or leftist wing of the Democratic parties, they love him. They're hoping that this is the guy that's going to be the next Obama. That's going to be, so compelling, that the nation will vote for him because he's going to tell us how great he's going to do, and how wonderful Islam is, So anyway, and we know how wonderful Islam is. Anyway, so yeah, this is kind of what's going on right now, and fortunately, the bombs are not falling on us, but I do remember bombs falling on me. So that this is the reason that this is a cautionary tale. Don't expect that America will always be free of retaliation. Eventually, something's going to happen here as well. And, I really just hope, that our military is ready, because, there have been too many Democratic administrations, not spending money on military and defense kind of projects. But it does sound, based on what they just did with the bunker buster, that, they have some things going that are really, really good. But, there's China on the rise. Everybody else out there is also worried about the United States. What if they send bunker busters to us? And, just because they disagree with us. Or because, we have a disagreement with a NATO ally. So anybody that attacks NATO, has to have a response from America as well, or all of the NATO nations. So it's kind of like it's not like the League of Nations or anything like this, but, there were these pacts between Poland and the UK, and I don't know who else was involved in it, so that, once Germany invaded Poland, it required the response, by Britain, I think they were the first ones to respond, and France. But of course, then the Germans, moved into France, took them out. So it wasn't until the Americans came on board, and really supported the Allied efforts that the tide turned. Anyway, yeah, and hey, I was all part of that. But just one more thing. You heard me talk about garlic in the last video, and so now it's been well about a month, and my wife still hasn't had a toothache. So what the heck do you make of this? Is garlic a cure? It just can't be. But I tell you, if you have a toothache, reach for that garlic. All right, with that, I bid you farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, and so long.